Yeah.
Their parent was.
All right, sorry, I was in a meeting and
Yeah, if you want to join the
just
Zoom,
need
so you
to
can share.
exactly join that Zoom. So is our owl live and we're all
Yes, yep, the only person online right now is Pam.
great. Thanks for being here, Pam, and thanks everybody else. As I log in, we were doing the WellStat last time, so I think we'll probably continue working through that as a check-in. And then it sounds like some or all of you met to talk about ARs, so maybe you can just connect and update. And then I wanted to share just like a draft Google form survey that I made as a, what do you think of this for stakeholder input? So let me just finish connecting here. But hopefully this will kind of close out our initial work. Okay.
And Lauren is joining.
Today is the 13th. How come I don't see? Is it featured? Where's our meet?
Check.
So many folders now.
If I click on the October 5th wellness meeting, would that get me to the same
It
place?
should,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Advisory committee edits is our
All right.
document, right?
Draft ARs? No.
We were going through the
Yes,
edits,
consolidated.
and then we were doing, if you get out your checklist.
And then redo it as needed, revise the wellness.
Right, okay, I'm joining. This works.
22.8.31.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard me, but
Oh,
Lauren
Lauren
is
is
also
here.
online.
Great.
I have too many wellness tabs open.
And I don't know who this
Fine,
number
yeah.
is. So I don't believe it's on.
22.8.31.
It's in the 22. Yeah, you're in there. Outside, so. I figured
Recording
I
in
never was in the
progress.
right spots.
All right.
Oh, so the bar kind of.
Okay. I'm in. Do I have the
I
ability
will
to share
promote
yet?
you and make you co-host 1 second.
Great.
There's someone trying to join with a phone number, but
That might be one of our other parent.
okay, we can let them in and then find
What's the
out.
phone number?
It doesn't show the full phone number.
Because Roz has, I can see a phone number on her thing, but
It ends in 57. That's all it shows me.
no, hers is 730.
Okay. All right, Sam, I'm going to share my screen. And there we are. Okay, great. I needed 5 more minutes today between items. All right, so we were working through our WellStat. It looks like we wanted to resume at WPM1. And I think our goal was, let's see if we need to make edits to our draft policy to earn some more twos. And WPM1 says it encourages staff to model healthy eating and physical activity behaviors. So what is the extent that our policy encourages staff to model these things? And I'm not sure that there's anything about that.
I remember seeing language to that effect.
Not in this policy, there is no language as it's written.
Do we think it would be helpful to add language encouraging staff to do something along those lines? I appreciate your input. I mean, so the sample language says, a 2 would be requires the school or district administrators to encourage staff to model healthy eating and physical activity behaviors. Like school staff members shall be encouraged to model healthy eating and physical activity behaviors, which doesn't seem too onerous, but
Well,
perhaps it's a little
yeah,
heavy-handed.
I think, yeah.
Um,
Not in our purview.
It suggests school district administrators encourage staff to model healthy eating and physical active behaviors. Lauren, Pam, Corey, any thoughts?
I think modeling is always a good idea. I don't know that we can impose it, but we can encourage it. I mean, I think we should be encouraging everybody to eat healthier, exercise and stuff. So I don't have anything necessarily against it. We just can't mandate it, right?
We have
I mean, we do it all the time with Go 365. And like we're out there trying to.
What is Go 365?
That's the PEHT's incentive program to kind of get active and stuff. And if you could earn steps and then trade in those steps towards dollars. or
I mean,
things.
so from a financial standpoint, having healthy staff
Yeah.
saves
Costs
the
less.
district money, right?
It's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
if we're
good.
talking about a
Yeah.
fiscal cliff, like,
Well, I guess before you could really say that, though, you have to delve into why people are calling it sick. I mean, I don't necessarily think that eating well is gonna keep you from catching a cold from the kids in your class.
no, but it might save the state money 30 years from now for long-term health costs. So it could be a way to show
Or
that.
just to be a little turd. People who live longer in tier 1 and 2, state has to pay them longer.
So we really want to save money.
I'm just teasing.
I guess I could live, based on hearing what you said, Corey, with the language that's kind of under number 1.
Yes.
I would feel squeamish about the language in 2.
Oh,
because,
can you read it again?
uh,
But the
what's
question's worth it.
Principals, under 1, would be principals should encourage staff to model healthy eating habits. And I think we could add and physical activity
Why
behaviors.
don't we just say, why don't we leave principals, not put it on principals? Maybe that's the part that we all would have part of. It's not the
Should say-
principals. It's just kind of like all of it. Like, how do we do?
How about the
staff
district?
The
encourage-
district
yeah,
shall,
Well,
Staff
that's also-
members are
District-
encouraged.
Yeah, something more blatant,
I
something
like
more.
that. Make it passive voice so we don't have an actor who has to go in and
Yeah.
point fingers at anyone.
So what did
Absolutely.
you say?
Last thing
Mike?
we-
What's your language?
I would say
agree.
staff members are encouraged
Yes.
to model healthy eating habits and physical activity behaviors.
Yeah.
um,
The last thing Cindy wants to do is go tell her principals to go do that.
Right.
I got other things to
Don't
tell
make
my
that teacher be
principals.
healthy.
I got a lot of other things to tell my principals.
Board member lesson.
yeah,
School board policy 1311, participation in community life. The board believes participation in community life encourages good citizenship and may be beneficial for providing good examples of it to our children. Personnel are encouraged to participate actively in community life to the extent consistent with their professional obligations to participate in community activities as appropriate. It's very vague.
Sounds related.
It does relate, but it does not.
Mhm.
Doesn't talk about
exactly
eating and
address.
activity.
Correct.
But could we tie in a statement? Sounds like that's a good place for it to go.
Because you're already talking about community relations, and this is out, but this is inside and outside, I guess. So I could see it going either way. That's just the only reference point that I could find in our board policy
Mhm.
that talked about encouraging staff to do things.
so I'm gonna go out on a, so I wrote that suggested sentence here for, in bold, just as a placeholder, that's way up at the beginning. And maybe this is a reasonable time. I thought about this kind of preamble a while ago, and I wasn't sure if there was a useful time to discuss. And I think that I put some potential substitute language in here. And maybe this is a way to target, and we're back to the colors, but the green is what exists and blue was an addition. And so let's see, this is what is currently up at the top. But if we change this to say something like it recognizes, the Anchorage School Board recognizes that schools are in a position to promote healthy lifestyle choices by students that can affect their lifelong wellness. It recognizes that physical and mental wellness contributes to students' readiness to learn, improve behavioral outcomes, increased attendance, and overall academic success. That student wellness is a responsibility that Anchorage School District shares with parents and other caregivers, educators, and support staff, and individual students themselves. And that student wellness and academic outcomes can be promoted across the school district by carefully allocating time, space, and resources. And that's not exactly the same thing as what you proposed, but it's a little bit of a more comprehensive, why do we value this wellness policy? And maybe the language that additional sentence, staff members sort of own wellness as a part of this puzzle.
Are you suggesting that we add this language and keep the other language, or add this language and not specifically call it out in the other
Well,
section?
I think that there's, if we're talking about ticky points and earning points here, adding a specific sentence encouraging staff to practice healthy behaviors is valuable. So I would support that sentence that you suggested earlier. And I just wondered if this is the time to also talk about maybe broadening that preamble just a little bit.
So the green is already in there.
Yes.
And the blue you've added.
Yeah, and that's
Suggested.
it's suggested down below. I didn't know a good time to talk about it. And
I do think the preamble is a good place to put this, because it doesn't really seem like it would fit.
it's not
Any
just
specific-
nutrition or PE
Because
or
it's kind of an
activity.
overarching, this is
Yeah.
something that we're going to, as a district, encourage.
Right.
Or model. Yeah, I think it should go in the preamble for sure.
We're looking back up at the top of that document, member lessons.
Mhm.
This is the approved section, and you just added that
Oh.
dark black, right?
Yeah, this dark black is just, I
It's
just
the
I
one
just
that-
typed it in because that's what we were just talking
And
about. I
that was
wanted-
that simple tight language
That
that
was- yes.
Director Lang suggested.
Yes,
Instead of the larger language, which is at the bottom.
correct.
It's either or both.
Oh, either or
We're
both,
talking
or
about,
some
yeah.
combination.
Yes, so I just for the groups and
Yeah.
notation that this is what exists now that we've
Right.
agreed on. The
Mhm.
black was just added. The larger language, member
mean-
lessons is referring to is at the very bottom.
Right. In the
Right.
blue.
Mhm.
The green is already
Yeah,
there.
I'd say, as part of these goals, staff members are encouraged. I don't know.
It's a good
exactly.
aspirational statement.
It's an
So,
aspirational statement. And the 1311 was just a reference to what the Sun had referenced. And I just, do you collectively see, and I don't know if there's anybody online.
Pam's having a hard time with her connection. She is
Okay.
listening by phone. I told her if she has any input to feel, I'll just keep my email open.
Okay.
But as of
Great.
right now,
So staff members are encouraged to model healthy eating and physical activity. I think that's a reasonable place. It's not bad here.
No, I think it's good there.
Um, And we can table that other preamble idea until later. Is that reasonable? So we can charge on ahead? Okay, so I'm going to,
That gives us a 1.
that gives us a 1. That's exactly right. So we get a 1 for WPMI. And I will just not bold that. Oops. All right, so we're gonna say we've added this. Great. Okay, WPM2 is addresses strategies to support employee wellness. I don't think that we have strategies identified since we didn't talk about employee
Well,
wellness.
we don't really address a lot of stuff with staff.
Mhm.
The challenge here is that we do these things, it feels, it's interesting having a policy. Like you
Yeah.
talk about the Wellness 365 campaign, right? That's for all AEA members. Through Vero Whole Health, we have a $200 incentive to go and get a physical every year, do a
Biometric
consultation.
screening
Yeah,
and
and all of those things.
health consultation and life coach consultation.
Yeah. And so I feel like those are happening.
They're promoted, encouraged.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But this is in we should have a policy.
No, but
Do you want an AR about that? I mean,
No, I don't think so. But I wonder, is there a generalized statement with regard to staff wellness that could be,
the district shall offer incentives for staff to promote staff wellness?
don't
District,
know.
you could say the district could work with
shall work.
health partners or community health partners to promote, I don't know, something like that. But I would, not use, I wouldn't really shy away from using the word shall
Yeah,
at all with staff, when you're talking about staff stuff.
or unless it shall provide opportunities
Yes.
to encourage employee wellness. Because that's what we're doing. We're not mandating anything. We're providing opportunities
Mhm.
that encourage employee wellness, or at least if we're talking about health, maybe not. I mean, they're talking about more physical activity.
Mhm.
Ours is more physical health.
Any more questions related to staff? I'm curious if we just need to
Yeah,
have a
just sort of think
paragraph
about-
somewhere that's more specific to.
It might just be these two.
Yeah, the next one talks about using foods or reward,
Yeah.
which we, you know.
talked
Yeah, I think those are the
about.
only two staffish items. Mhm. Part of these goals, the district shall provide opportunities to improve employee wellness. And
Well, if it's provide opportunities, is it the language of one, which is desires to provide?
the district desires to provide.
instead of shall provide.
And encourages.
Or instead of to improve, you're assuming they're already at a detriment. District desires to provide opportunities for employee wellness and encourages staff members to model healthy eating and physical activity behaviors.
Part of these goals, the district desires to provide opportunities in support of.
Or to incentivize.
In support of
Okay.
employee wellness.
And encourages staff members to model healthy eating and physical activity behaviors.
The only word I don't like is
Okay.
desires.
Okay.
District.
But we already use encourage that.
What is the district doing these?
Will make available?
Hmm,
No,
That's more of a,
that's a little more directive also. And really, we're only talking about what the district does with the district health plan, because what Alaska, is it Alaska Educator Health Trust? What's the NEA Alaska Health Trust? What is it called?
PhD, the public health. System.
Yeah, that's not in our purview. I mean, we can't tell them what to offer. They're choosing to do that for their members, but that's not something that is governed by policy.
Mhm.
You know, it is not beyond the district to provide its own incentive too, though. Like
True.
outside of Vera and outside of PDHT, that people could sign up. and do
Totally.
something like that.
Question,
So-
It's just
does that
money.
cost money?
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
sure, I mean, perhaps there's always gonna be a dog, but healthy living hopefully does save money in the long run.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
So can we change,
That would be our.
as part of these goals, the board
I think this is really the board's
encourages the
document, right?
district, yeah, the board encourages the district to provide opportunities in support of employee wellness.
Skate night.
Yeah.
District skate night, employee skate night.
You know, and
Broken
staffs all the
bones,
time
stuff
have these
that might not be
biggest loser challenges, staff bike to work days, and these are great things. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
They're
positive
fun.
culture
Yes.
building.
Provide-
things.
There are some things that are a
They're
little.
The board
bonding,
encourages the district to provide opportunities in support of employee wellness, and the board then also encourages staff members to model healthy eating and physical activity behaviors.
Yeah.
That
Great.
fixes it for me.
Okay,
Yeah, it
great.
was-
And
it was
again, this
clunky
is
the
like
way
the sort of like
staff
lofty
triathlon.
aspirational, this is why we have this.
It's kind of fun.
It would be fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think
All the
that's-
Facilities for it.
you have lots of great facilities.
Yeah, do a lot of stuff, actually.
I think you should have, and you could have school-based teams,
Aren't
people
you
can
considered an
really.
employee?
For what?
You
What are we talking
consider-
about?
We.
I think it's a great idea. Okay, I participate. All right. Even though the Bartlett pool is cold, cold,
Competition.
cold. I know. It is take your breath away, but wear a wetsuit cold.
On
those of us.
purpose. It has to be
Okay,
competition cold.
So do we want to give ourselves a
Should be actually the
one?
warmest pool.
Which one?
Should get high school's the warmest pool.
That is a good fact to know.
It is
No,
very
a
good
better
fact.
fact is what's the warmest pool in town?
Yeah, that is in town. It's an ASD.
Shukiak? That's not in
Shukiak is
town.
not in
Shukiak is not
Anchorage.
Anchorage.
What's this one, right?
I think it's,
How about Diamond? Some of us live
Let's
out
not
that
go
far.
there.
yeah.
Moving on.
All right, so I feel like we
I thought
can,
APU was one of
Yeah.
the warmest.
it's not really a strategy, it's a
Sorry.
desires. I'd say we get a 1 for that one. Does that seem reasonable?
agree.
For two?
It's for WPM2.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that we just had.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. WPM3 addresses using physical activity as a reward.
We definitely did
I
that.
think,
We didn't.
let's see, that was down in the first one. Is this, let me go back to where I was. Three,
Here it is,
Non-physical
non-physical reward.
activity
Yeah.
as punishment.
foods or
Withholding.
beverages, so there's a reward, non-food rewards, foods is a reward. I think we foods and beverages as a reward. I don't think we have language about physical act. I think that's part of the Alaska Gold Standard Wellness Policy and not part of this one. Lauren,
Are you sure? Because I feel like we talked about it because I was thinking that some schools,
did we talk about
okay, we talked about it as a punishment, not
Yeah,
a
free-
reward.
physical activity? So that was under physical activity.
Mhm.
Physical activity, all students K-8, 90% accumulated, given opportunities.
There it is, like almost at the bottom.
Oh, punishment or
That's
withholding.
the punishment part, but at the nutrition section, administration regulations will be developed and maintained that includes suggestions for non-food rewards.
Like including physical activity.
We could just put a little line in there
Okay, so under the rewards, so non-food.
under nutrition.
Okay.
In that paragraph, yeah.
Non-food rewards such as physical activity. I think,
Including.
Such as dance party, extra recess, I don't know, yeah, such as,
AR.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
including,
Physical activity. Opportunities or something, stickers.
that includes suggestions for non-food rewards or like physical activity opportunities. Does that work?
Such as.
Such as physical. Okay,
Do we need to add that to the AR then?
Right,
you would need to add a little bit to the AR about that.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think that's a really great addition to the AR and a good brief addition to the policy. And you
That's a one.
think that's a 1? Okay,
Because the other one is prohibited.
okay. And I'll just say adding,
Although it says, staff, the example says prohibited, but the number 2 says encourage. Back to the beginning, so I don't know.
staff is encouraged to use physical activities reward. Food rewards are prohibited. I don't think food rewards are prohibited. And teachers will be provided with a list of alternative items. We strongly recommend staff use physical activities reward when feasible.
Link to one.
Yeah.
One's a 2.
Okay. WPM4 addresses physical activity not being used as a punishment. I think we get a 2 for that. WPM5 addresses physical activity not being withheld as a punishment.
Well, we could just add that word. Cannot be used or withheld.
Using physical
It's already in
activity
there.
as punishment or withholding
Yeah.
as a means of discipline is prohibited. Great, so we get a 2. WPM6 specifies marketing to promote healthy food and beverage choices.
Schools will limit food and beverage marketing on campus to the promotion of foods and beverages that meet the national.
Yeah,
school
that's
lunch, blah,
pretty
blah, blah, blah.
strict.
Yeah.
So
That's
a-
good.
Okay. WPM7 restricts marketing on the school campus during the school day to only those foods and beverages that meet smart snack standard.
We just read.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same thing. Specifically addresses marketing on school property. And then there are some examples like signs, banners, scorecards. That's beyond my realm of understanding whether we do that.
Well, we used to do, it was, well, okay, so we have school business partners.
Right.
Like I had Subway when I was at Girdwood,
Mhm.
and I did have Subway
Advertisements.
absolutely as part of my
Mhm.
agreement with them. And so,
But we were, there was a time in which that was allowable, and then that changed a few years back. We actually had to go through and take down all that signage.
okay,
Because we had Subway kiosks at high school.
Right,
We
I do
had to
remember
remove
that.
all of that, so
I'm
I
not
think
sure
that
message got just,
it may, yeah, it
Elementary
may not have universally been cascaded down, but it has.
I mean, we didn't offer
been.
sandwiches during the, I mean, it was just, you know,
Yeah, and I don't
It
remember
was
seeing
mainly for
banners
adults.
and stuff, for more website sort of things, more generic school business partner logo type of stuff.
I think this is speaking to the Texas endorsement, like this football scoreboard is brought to you by Coca-Cola.
Right.
You know,
Putting
Right.
Cold
like the
Stone
brand-
on the
yeah.
center of your field.
Mm.
Mhm.
I think that's what they're,
well, we don't do any of that stuff. do we?
we don't, we do not sell our fields.
No, named after alumni.
Right, but that's not a sale.
That's not a sale.
That's a-
So does the policy address marketing on property? And if it doesn't address that,
Are we okay with the 0, or would you want to add like the 1 displaying is discouraged on school grounds?
display and advertising of unhealthful foods on school, but the next one is also on educational materials and where food is purchased.
Too much. It's like the
Applications.
M&Ms in math is always a problem. Like, do you
I mean,
use
there's-
them to do a division project? Yeah,
But that wouldn't be marketing, that would be use of food.
Mhm.
right.
For an educational
Yeah.
purpose.
Mhm.
Would be more along the lines of hanging up a sign from or labeling something from a product or advertising for. So for instance, Pepsi Cola sponsoring the worksheet that I'm using would be an educational resource. But it does it, I guess my question with this one is, while we don't label our signs or scoreboards or equipment with that, there are signs and other things up, not just at high school, but also at elementaries from other business partners and things that may not always be a healthy option. So are we okay knowing the strong community connections that we have with our business partners, removing those things?
No.
Or can we accept a 0 as a district, knowing that the partnerships and community support is the stronger?
Well, go ahead.
piece?
No, I think you're right about the Subway banner. If they're a school business partner, or if your booster club sells banners as a fundraiser,
Mhm.
right? So Cold Stone Creamery supports the boys basketball team, Chugiak High School, and that banner goes up in the gym.
Mhm.
We usually have policies for banners in gyms and banners in stadiums.
Mhm.
And we have not regulated, other than we don't allow political signage and we don't allow stuff that markets drug alcohol.
Well, what
Right,
it's
so
gonna
the
do
big
is it's
store
gonna,
with-
it's gonna take away a lot of, because a lot of the reason people do school business partners is because they get advertising from it. And
Yep.
so I think it's gonna discourage that piece. which is unfortunate. And then the thing that I think of the most from what you said is Tasty Freeze.
Mhm.
I mean, Tasty Freeze is arguably a not healthy place, and, you know, they bring ice cream to
Huge
school.
supporter of our
But he is
schools.
one of the biggest community supporters in our town, and to be able to say, sorry,
We can't.
I just
Right.
think that would be a travesty for our district. I mean, we have people who've been doing this stuff forever, and it's just, it's such a big part of the community.
Yeah.
Teachers did the takeover there, they wear the ice cream cone.
Exactly.
It's such a big
Which is why I was
deal.
saying, should we
Yeah,
accept the 0, but know in our internal that there are other parameters for what we'll accept for signage, what kind of things
Those,
that we
those are already
encourage.
in policy,
Exactly.
right, about political speech
Right.
and drug
Mhm.
alcohol content. I mean, that I think passes the reasonable person rule for everyone.
Mhm.
This one would be
This one
a
would
sea
be a
change, it would be a
really
harder sell.
Mhm.
chart, huge one.
And because we do limit it, like, we don't allow those companies to come in and sell on campus and advertise.
Right.
But we're talking about supportive programs
Mhm.
through time and talent or
Mhm.
other financial contributions. They're not just,
I mean, there in the ASD Connect, that for
Mm.
October, there was a story about Steam Dot is partnering with Golden View.
Right.
And their kids learning,
yeah, my daughter did
Some
it.
skills.
Like Kaladi Brothers
Yeah,
has
they learned
done
how
right,
a number of
baristas.
sites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter did it. It's a great.
they have a
program.
coffee truck up at service and everybody got free coffee in the morning who wanted it.
Mhm.
Yeah. We have strong community ties, and I think it's almost worth it to take the 0 on this one because
Okay.
we're very supported by the community. I think we should honor that.
I agree. I'm also just gonna say that it's a slippery slope, and I am one that I think there are very few really bad foods. I think it's about balance, and if you don't have McDonald's, you know, once a week or twice a week, maybe it's not a horribly, you know, unhelpful thing to do. I'm not using that as an excuse to say, yeah, we should allow McDonald's to sponsor our scoreboards, but I think it's a slippery slope that we potentially get into. I think, you know, are we gonna allow Cold Stone? Is that arguably healthier than Coca-Cola? That gets kind of muddy. I like better when we're talking about school business partners that usually are going to be in kind, or not necessarily in kind. They may be financial, strictly financial, or man-hour contributions, volunteer hours, rather than product. Sorry, I just had to, I
yeah.
had to say that as we're talking about unhealthy or bad foods. It's
And we used the
really,
word moderation
really hard,
earlier in the
yes.
document, and I think that
Mhm.
was a useful,
Yeah.
right, life skill.
Mhm.
Lauren, your hand's raised. Go ahead.
I think, I was just trying to scan down because there's kind of a series right below this that are all about marketing. And I think I'm hearing and agree that maybe accepting some 0s here is okay with understanding where the balance is. But I wonder if maybe the 11, the one there of something about limiting unhealthy advertising of unhealthy products, maybe just like at school, and saying ads should be approved by a principal before being included, maybe would be like one piece to consider, that there should be some sort of oversight. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, typically the school business partners go through the principal.
It requires an annual signature. You know.
Yeah, you have to do an agreement. And so, you know, part of the agreement with the principal is how are we going to advertise, basically?
Uh-huh.
You know, do we get the logo on and are you gonna put our thing on the website? Are you gonna put it in a newsletter? What are we gonna do once, you know?
Mhm.
So, what do you do for me? Oftentimes they like Tasty Free wants artwork once a month. So, you know,
I almost wonder whether the question of school business partnership should be addressed here, right? Because as it stands, schools will limit food and beverage marketing on campus to the promotion of foods and beverages that meet nutritional guidelines, right? I mean, that's a pretty heavy blanket,
Mhm.
even, I mean, because it doesn't allow for school business partnerships
Mhm.
in a way.
Mhm.
Right, and it doesn't allow for a Coca-Cola cup at elementary. If you did. No, I don't know if you do or don't.
Mhm.
It just because Coca-Cola is not allowed at elementary,
Mhm.
it's a soda, so then that's an
That
advertisement.
we can't provide, we don't, yeah.
So
Correct.
vending companies will often give you
But like
those
if you
cups
have
for
a,
free, and
yeah,
you're
if
like,
you
free
have a
cups.
jamboree and you're using Coca-Cola cups for your water,
We absolutely-
I'm just saying.
When I came in, they used
No,
McDonald's as
but-
an incentive.
But what
I
I'm
changed that.
saying is, if that's what you do, then you wouldn't be able to do that.
Correct. Correct.
Is that addressed anywhere else?
I do not know. As far as in our own stuff, is it addressed anywhere else? Or as
Yeah.
far as in the,
The board policy.
about,
I've heard the cup thing before.
Yeah.
That it's allowed certain grade levels, but where is it written? Like how would a principal?
that's
know?
in that food guidelines for smart snacks advertising.
Okay.
That's where it's
That's the federal
described
one, okay.
yeah. about advertising and like what it looks like to advertise on a campus.
So we don't have to write that because we point to.
We point to
That
that.
as a compliance thing.
I think so. That's where I would go, but internally, this, knowing we're going to need to work towards these kind of goals and this kind of policy, this will take a lot of closer look. So I hesitate to call it out specifically
Yeah.
in this policy, knowing that the guidelines themselves, since they went out in 2014, 15, have changed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, Kelsey, but they've updated a couple of times on it to walk a couple of things back and to push a few new things
Like the
forward.
salt and grain sorts of.
Yeah, so if
And
we,
every administration is probably going to continue to tinker with that.
correct,
The language says will limit. It doesn't say will prohibit or will
Mhm.
completely exclude.
Mhm.
We have clear guidance through student nutrition that we can't post that in the cafeteria. We can't have Subway kiosks. We do limit it, but we have allowed it in certain circumstances through school business partnerships or advertising and programs. If companies buy ads in a yearbook, if a sports team sells a banner that is up for the duration of their season. But there's some balance there. So I think schools are limiting it. I don't know what the will of the board is, if the intent is to move more to more prohibition, but
I can't speak for the rest of the board. I think it's a question to maybe, it may be something to raise in discussions as this moves through governance. We could be more explicit about marketing, but it is really complicated with respect to our school business partnerships. Maybe I'll just flag that.
yeah, I think
Um,
that's appropriate flagging, but also think leaving the language as it is, that says we're here to, or we will limit and work to keep the national guidelines, because when they change, we don't have to rewrite our policy.
I know that we have strong fans of school business partnerships on the board.
Well, when you're a school who gets
Yep.
benefits from it.
Yep.
That you wouldn't otherwise have.
Yep.
Budgets are so
Mhm.
limited,
Yep.
it really is a big deal.
It's huge for community connection for our
It's-
students.
Mhm.
Oh, my sixth grades used to go to Tasty Freeze and do their gardens every spring and every fall. I mean, that's good stuff.
It's just part of service learning, understanding your place in the community
absolutely-
and all the other pieces.
and
Yeah.
those banner promotion programs bring in tens of thousands of dollars for high school to support activity.
Well,
And
having
every-
just reviewed the cost of high school
Well, and I
sports.
just think that we've done a great job as a district, not selling off our field to Pepsi and other things.
Mhm.
That as a district, we've been very conservative in how we market our district to sell it. We aren't selling it. We're promoting community connection. And that's different than marketing.
I agree.
Lauren's point about adding something about principal approval for advertising. I think that works in smaller buildings, maybe more so at elementary. At high school, you have your music programs and your plays and your academic awards and all these different things that are producing programs. And people need sponsorships. You got 22 different sports programs out there independently doing this. You've got the yearbook, you've got so many different places where it happens. It gets really
I don't
difficult
think, I
to-
mean, Tim, you can correct me, but I never had any experience with teachers wanting to advertise in their newsletters. I mean, they're putting in
Right.
what spelling words are for the week and all that stuff. I mean, they're not putting in.
Your point, you're right.
They
but
wanted
it
to
is
say it.
it's certainly a bigger deal at secondary.
Great idea. I could have had a hold of their revenue.
Get your own
stream.
Right.
To go fund me.
But if you're doing
Yeah.
a musical and
Newsletter,
you're soliciting donations.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't think
from
it's dealing.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah, it
making
really
it
is.
in elementary school.
Lauren's hand is up.
Oh, I'm hearing that, yeah, that might actually be a challenge to even add in that language. And I think in general, as long as we have this pretty strong, like we'll limit the partners, this marketing piece, I think that those taking some zeros on this is not the end of the world compared to a lot of schools like in Texas that are just like splattered with Pepsi and Coke, like they are, it's creating those pieces were addressing a problem that we don't really have at our district. And so putting in a bunch of language might not be even that helpful.
When the committee, and hopefully some of you can attend, whenever it is that we present to the governance, I think that this is an important side note to have. And just say, we could have been more heavy-handed, but we didn't think that was in the best interest of the district as a whole. Okay, great. So let's give ourselves zeros for WPM 8, 9. I guess 10. I mean, you said that we have restrictions on where food is marketed currently. Addresses marketing where food is purchased.
Oh, which one are you looking at?
Well, I was looking at WPM 10. I'm just sort of ready to dole out some zeros. But you seem pretty confident saying that we have restrictions on where marketing can occur.
Just looking at the list.
It's not an elementary problem, so.
That would be like when we put on the vending machine that it's sponsored by Coca-Cola, we changed some of those to read that we just asked the vendors to put up the healthy green kind of look to the vending machine instead of the Coke vending machine, and then the Coke vending machine will only turn on after hours. That would be a kind of like.
But we don't have that written. That's just
We don't.
practice.
Correct.
We don't have this written in our policy, but
Right.
it's written in the smart snack guidance, which we point to. So I don't know if we get
Okay.
points there or not.
No, it might just be easiest to say 0
Okay.
and move on. Okay, marketing and school publications, we'll do a 0 for WPM 11. And fundraisers and corporate sponsored programs. Lottie Brothers funds a lot of 6th grade camp. That's a 0 for 12. Okay, down to the home stretch. IEC 1 addresses the establishment of an ongoing district wellness committee. Up to the top, sorry. Okay,
We said that they're going to review, and remember we have that whole thing about principals will do the survey at the end of as part of the end of the year checkout.
yeah, so
and-
let's look down at our last section. Okay, communication with families. Oops. Why am I not signed in? Sorry.
It's pretty clear in the very first planning and periodic review, like right up in A, that you're gonna have an advisory group that involves all these people.
Okay,
I think that's where it fits.
sorry, okay, we're in Zoom. Am I still part of this?
Part of what?
Am I, all right, I'm part of the meeting
Yes, your screen
and my
is still
screen is
shared.
still here.
Yep.
Okay,
You're
great.
I don't know if we meet the threshold for ongoing regular meetings. We talk about annually. These examples are more multiple times a year, but we do have like about a group.
All right, I feel like things are jerky. Probably need to restart my computer. Okay,
If you close some of your open applications on the bottom,
that
you might not have to restart your computer if you put some things that you don't need open right now. Other than Zoom.
yeah.
If you click and hold on the icon in the dock, if you click and
Like
hold on
this?
it.
Oh, look
then
at
you
that.
can select it.
He's so
Very-
smart, isn't he? He's so handy to have around the
Amazing.
For
office.
for really useless tips like
Okay.
this, they come up like once in a
We're always
blue.
going,
Yeah.
Tim.
Okay, so I think Zoom, I think that the Google, the Teams
You're
thing
off
that I
again.
was on earlier was
Uh-huh.
fouling me up. Okay, so it says, so are we gonna have an ongoing wellness committee? So it says, so right now, the school board will receive an annual summary report on practices regarding compliance. It seems, oh, Lauren, go ahead while I'm monkeying around through here.
I'd go scroll way up to A. I feel like it's more clearly up there with the, right there, yeah. We're gonna have an advisory group to implement, monitor, look at these goals. I feel like that's at least a 1. It doesn't show like how many times you meet, but it's that you have a committee.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
that-
this language is it's a little bit fuzzy, right? We're gonna promote opportunities to participate in the group at least once a year. But it doesn't really say how often the group is going to convene
Mhm.
and to what purpose, right? So if we're gonna have the principals do some kind of a survey at the end of every year to help inform the following year,
Right.
does it make sense to have an annual wellness policy
Review.
committee review, just like a check-in process?
Well, someone's gonna have to
Or-
look at the surveys and.
Right,
Right. Don't ask them to do.
to do something that's
survey if
just
we're
gonna
not do something
disappear
with it.
into.
Yeah, I mean, a report of some sort's going to be developed.
That second paragraph in A about that they're making goals, and then presenting it to the school board. Is
Mhm.
that helpful?
I mean, I think if we were to be really explicit here, we would say something like, we will create a wellness advisory group. And we have other committees that will meet at least once a year to review whatever we're calling the principal surveys.
Mhm.
And I think that also could help with the triennial review process, which ASD has to do. It would feel a little bit less out of left field if there was a little bit of continuity.
And may also help with the goal setting.
And may help with the goal setting.
Because if the principal surveys at the end of the year give you sort of a litmus of how things were going over the course of that year, then, looking at those at the beginning of the next year may help your advisory group help set goals for
The future.
the coming year.
Mhm.
I feel like that first sentence could be clarified to say the school district will maintain a wellness advisory.
Yeah. Will establish and maintain?
This is developing, implementing, monitoring, reviewing as necessary, revising school nutrition and physical activity goals.
I think that's really good. So a pen that works. I've got a pencil. All right, that's right. I'm good. This one should be thrown away. So in A,
To get a 2, you would have to tell when the meetings occurred. So quarterly, yearly,
I think it,
biannually.
It says at least once a year. Oh, no, that's the promoting opportunity, sorry.
And
Does the survey stay the same from year to year? Seems like it probably would if we're trying to measure the same sorts of things.
Mhm.
I was just thinking, does that wellness committee, do they need to meet twice a year? Do they need to meet at the beginning and the end? Or are they really gonna need to meet a couple of times at the beginning of the year to review data and set goals?
they should probably meet a couple times a year.
I would think. I don't know that they would need to meet quarterly.
Right.
Necessarily. But I,
At least twice a year,
This is-
say,
I'm sorry, what was that?
to say that they will meet at least twice a year, and present, maybe in that very last paragraph about presenting it to the goals on the school board. It could be in there that at least one of the times is to make those presentations.
So the school
This
district
is good.
establish and maintain a wellness advisory group that will meet at least twice a year to assist in doing these different things.
Mhm.
We will promote opportunities to participate, and we'll provide the group with information and guidelines. I think that's great.
Mhm.
Good.
Do we- You?
We do.
Great.
That's a little icon.
Okay.
It's important.
That was ICE. That was
Oh, wait,
IEC one.
That's one. Okay.
No, all right, but this next one, yes, icons, okay. So IEC two addresses how all relevant stakeholders will participate in the development, implementation, and review and update.
Yeah. we said
So
that. This is parent stakeholder communication
parent and stake,
advisory group through parent.
all relevant stakeholders. Through participate, will provide opportunities for all relevant stakeholders to participate. To participate in the advisory group at least once a year.
Mhm.
I think through newsletters, public announcements, web postings, etc. Does that work? Just changing that?
Mhm.
Will promote opportunities for all relevant stakeholders to participate in the advisory group at least once a year. I think that's great. It's a little cleaner. Do we get a 2?
I think so. Specify who and how.
Okay. Do we need to list those stakeholders?
No.
I would think you would need a, I got a
Stake-
comment.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I think listing who the stakeholders are would be important. That way, down the road, it doesn't leave out parents. You know, if it's not in there, then that means ASD can't, doesn't have to include parents, and we want to make sure parents are given options to be participating in this. Not saying you guys would exclude the parents or certain groups, but by having it in there, it will then help hold ASD accountable.
Yeah, so I mean, they list those specific stakeholders a couple of times in the icon, so.
Do we want to say including or should we say such as? Because if we say including,
You have to have all of it.
yeah,
Lauren, do you have any specific expertise on this?
I think such as would be okay, but as long as it's shared out to all those groups. So if people showed interest, they could take part in place of it, I think. That's
Okay with-
my experience.
How about if you don't put such as,
Just
you just list it and then
Yeah.
put and or the general public? Or something like that, so you can include some or all of them, right?
Great.
And or.
can we also go to the very first sentence there, the district will promote opportunities for, instead of saying all relevant stakeholders, I don't want to sound like I'm
For
watering this
relevant
down.
stakeholders.
I'm worried of us getting backed into a corner and trying to find all of these people, but just removing the all and putting for relevant stakeholders. We want to cast a wide net,
Mhm.
but we don't want to require that we have to have
One of everything.
one of everything.
Okay, well then, federal rule language states that the policy must include a description of the manner in which parents, students, and the general public are provided an opportunity. I think I would,
Well, maybe all should be there, because we're promoting the opportunity for all relevant stakeholders.
We're not
Yeah.
seeing all of those folks on the committee. We're
Correct.
Advertising the
and I would
opportunity
delete the
to
Yes.
or to be deferential to this federal rule language.
Mhm.
So, okay, the district will promote opportunities for all relevant stakeholders to participate in the advisory group at least once a year through, and we are explicit about the manner in which
newsletters.
we're given an
Web
opportunity.
postings, Parent communications, yeah.
Briefly, what you currently actually already have that we cut out earlier is permit and encourage the participation, and you have all of those guys listed out. So you
Rather
can
than
just
promote,
pick with
our
what you
current
have.
language says, what does it say? It says
Say
permit and encourage.
permit and
Participation.
encourage, yeah.
All right, so is that good?
I think
like
that's
it.
great.
Okay, I will give it, so we get a 2 for that icon. Okay, IEC
Lauren,
3.
thank you for helping us not completely reinvent the wheel.
Thanks. And I'm sorry, I have a 1 o'clock I need to hop off on, but thank you so
Okay.
much for all your good work on this.
Thank you for being here. Okay, IEC 3 identifies the officials responsible for the implementation and compliance of a local wellness policy. Federal language states that each LEA must designate one or more officials or school officials to ensure that each participating school complies with the school wellness policy. Officials responsible. I think we delegate to the superintendent or designee.
So we start that paragraph with the superintendent or designee will establish and maintain a wellness advisory group.
So within this section, the superintendent. So
So the school district just
or are we doing their
Or designee.
designee or designee?
And what does it say at the end? Just out of
It does
curiosity, 'cause I think
say-
it does say.
There's
does
something
address-
about superintendent.
Yeah.
is there.
Communication, the superintendent or designee will ensure compliance. So this language up there will be consistent.
Yeah, I think it's a 2.
Okay. All right, so a 2 for IEC 3. IEC 4 addresses making the wellness policy available to the public. Federal rule language states that local LEAs must inform the public about the content and implementation of the school wellness policy and make it available.
Didn't we say we were gonna do a wellness page or something like that?
Yes.
Or- Yeah.
So what does it say about content?
District will regularly, annually inform and update the public, including students, parents, and the community about the content.
Content? Do you want to say content and implementation? Because that could be part of the wellness committee's sort of duties is to prepare a report, right? They're going to prepare a report for the board on the implementation of this policy, right? So if our principals do some kind of a survey, the committee talks about those results, that'd be a great time to make a presentation then to the board, and that would be the implementation. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
about the
it basically
content,
addresses the assessment in district's implementation, so not just the content. But
yeah,
I see why that's important. Yeah.
okay. So, and are we, do we want to be explicit about the copy shall be on the website?
I think we
Well,
are.
Does it say?
You talked about,
I know we talked about this.
Physical education and physical activity, that's the just above monitoring compliance, that last part. We don't know that it's, such supports will include sharing information through website, newsletter, and other take-home materials. But that's specific to the physical education, physical activity
Mhm.
section.
We didn't do anything about nutrition as well?
This report will also be distributed to advisory councils, parent teacher organizations, school principals, and school health personnel. It will be made available to the public. This is under the school board will receive an annual summer report on the practices regarding district-wide compliance with established nutrition and physical activity policies.
But it's requiring us.
And will be
to
made
post-
available to the
wellness
public. We could say on
Uh-huh,
its website.
uh-huh.
Do you
On,
want to add the compliance?
Through the school, through the district website?
Communication channels,
district's communication channel.
communication channels, so like
Mhm,
I can post that on Facebook, or I can put something in.
mhm.
on the
It's in,
website.
it's going to be in board docs, in
Yeah.
policy. But
Which is not the best place. for things to
exactly,
be.
which is why when we're talking about, I mean, it's a good place
Yeah.
that we've got everything
Right,
in one
it's there.
place.
But unless you're
it's not-
fluent
It's
in-
not user friendly.
Right.
So if we have the wellness page that also either links to the policy in board docs or has it pulled out specifically the wellness policy, so it's easy to download and read.
Through the district's communication channels, including its website. Does that work? Is that too explicit?
I think that's the easiest
Yeah,
one.
including
I
its
mean,
website.
because we know it's going to be available on the website through board
Okay.
docs.
Seems awfully specific for policy though.
Right. Just the communication channels,
Channels?
and it's open to whatever we need
Whatever.
Oh,
And
Sure, that it's not limiting
us
to the web.
mhm.
It could, if we say.
It's gonna be made
social
available to the
media,
public.
could be whatever.
Yeah.
However, through ASD Inside, ASD Connect.
Well, yeah, so it's definitely
So-
better than a 1, which is the wellness policy is available on the request. I'd say it's a 2.
I think it's a
I
2.
think it's
Mhm.
Okay. IEC 5 addresses the assessment of implementation at least once every 3 years. Federal language states the LEAs must assess compliance and make the results. So do we have the triennial?
Mhm.
The next one is specific to the triangle.
Managing compliance evaluation.
I'm down in F. The triennial administrative review. Yep. Okay. Do we want to say anything about like using, I mean, the suggested language here says the advisory council should conduct a quantitative assessment of the policy implementation every 3 years using the WellSat or school health index. Do we want to be specific about what tools they're going to use in the administrative review?
If those are subject to change,
I mean,
Mhm.
like, we're using the WellSat 3 right now.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's going to change.
Been
Yeah.
around for
The
a while.
WellSat.
WellSat has been around for
Right.
a while,
WellSat
but then there's
21.
also a new thing that combines the two. of
Well,
them.
that insert
Okay.
number here.
Yeah.
So
The current WellSat.
I think that we do get to the heart of the first, the first sentence. We talk about at least once every 3 years.
Mhm.
So I'm,
Are you on 6?
well, I was on IEC 5, and do we think that we
Yes.
have a 2 here?
Yep.
We have a specific plan to assess implementation, okay. IEC 6, triennial assessment results will be made available to the public and will include the extent to which schools under the jurisdiction of the LEA are in compliance, the extent to which the LEA's policy compares to model, and a description of the progress made. And I feel like that language was in the policy.
Yeah.
And did we cut it?
That third.
The extent to which. We don't have that language here. Okay, we deleted this. So this is down in the below section, right? So we deleted must conduct an assessment of its policy every 3 years. The assessment must determine compliance with the wellness policy, how the policy compares to model wellness policies and progress made in attaining the goals. So we shortened it to say must comply with federal and state reporting requirements. So do we need to
Put it back.
put it back? And that was under monitoring, compliance, and evaluation.
You mentioned the triennial review in the
But-
first paragraph.
It says the triennial assessment, I mean, it wants to be this icon wants us to be pretty explicit about what's included in the triennial assessment.
Well, I think we can just add that. Review the latest national recommendations pertaining, just use that exact language
Okay, so we just
and just throw it in there somewhere.
expand.
Yeah.
So
Full-
I'm gonna
full
copy this
paragraph
back
Yeah.
and so if we put it back here.
All schools and districts have a committee that
Okay, the district,
This policy must be updated as appropriate.
based on national guidelines.
Okay.
Based on the latest national recommendations pertaining to school health. I mean, that's their wording. Can't go wrong with using their exact words.
so this is the must comply with federal and state reporting requirements. This,
So the back of section A says the superintendent designee will establish and maintain a wellness advisory group that will meet at least twice a year to assist in developing, implementing, monitoring, reviewing, and as necessary, revising school nutrition and physical activity goals. Does that speak to that?
Well, no, because I think we still
No.
have to say that it's based on the latest national recommendations. That's what we're doing is we're,
So here we say that policy must be updated as appropriate. Up there, we talk about, we've got a committee that's one of their primary functions. And earlier on, we say that we're gonna do that off of scientific based.
Yeah, but we're still not saying that it would do it based on the latest national recommendations. I mean,
Federal rule language.
whatever,
maybe?
yeah, I mean, I just think that we need to say that specifically.
According, so the policy must be updated as appropriate according to federal rule language. Is that what you're looking for? Or national policy?
current,
I again, I like to mirror language because I think that it's when you're trying to meet the standard, if you mirror their language, then you're definitely meeting their standard.
Sure.
Okay, so the district must comply with federal and state reporting requirements, including an assessment of the triennial assessment of its wellness policy. This assessment must determine compliance with the wellness. Triennial assessment. Extent to which. How about we'll copy this language here. Let's determine the extent. how the wellness policy compares to model wellness policy and progress made in attaining the goals of the policy. Is that? The district must comply with federal and state board governing requirements, including training assessment of its wellness policy. How do you all feel about it?
It's fine.
Okay. Okay, great. I will,
Now you got that highlighted. If you click normal text up there, it'll
Yeah.
change it all to one, the same font. There we go.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll figure this out
Yeah.
later.
Do you want to keep the federal rule document, or do you want national? National instead of federal rule? Which
No,
one
it
are
doesn't
you
matter.
seeking?
They're both in there.
Okay, so we're happy with this?
Mhm.
All right, I'm gonna give us a 2 for IEC 6. IEC 7 addresses a plan for updating policy based on the results of triennial assessment. We must make appropriate updates and modifications based on it. Assessment of its policy. And a plan. And a plan. For updates. Based on. Based on,
Didn't we already say that it's gonna be reported out to the board annually? I mean, doesn't that meet that requirement?
well, I think that there are annual sort of check-ins, and then there's this triennial, more formal process. So I think it's a yes and. Including a triennial assessment of its wellness policy. This assessment, okay, if we go back to where we were, the assessment must determine the extent, policy must be updated as appropriate.
This feels duplicative of what we
Yeah.
already got.
So if this says the policy must be updated as appropriate, this addresses a plan for updating the policy. Well, it doesn't say must be updated based on, how about based on the results of the triennial? Mhm.
And it says pertaining to school health. Do you want to do that?
What would you suggest?
Or, it says every 2 to 3 years, wellness committee will review for number 2, the latest national recommendations pertaining to school health and will update wellness policy accordingly.
Okay, the policy must be updated based on the results of the triennial assessment and the latest national recommendations pertaining to school health. And then would we delete the section?
Because it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think that's
A
great.
wider, broader look than
Yeah.
just saying the federal language. than
Yeah.
Saying we have a lot of sources we can draw from to help update our policy.
Sure.
Okay,
Gives us flexibility.
great. Okay, this is the last question, guys. IEC 8 addresses the establishment of an ongoing school building model wellness committee. This may be called a school health team, school health committee, or similar name. I don't think we have a school one. Or a 2 would get us, for a 2, we would say something like all schools in the district have a committee that's ongoing and has regular meetings. The school wellness committee at each school meets quarterly. Does that requires all of our schools to have a wellness committee?
They want more committees.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Really?
It's like cowbell.
Yeah.
I
There's,
always need more cowbell, always need more committees.
there is no icon for the committees.
We don't need more committees.
No,
I would
okay,
not recommend that.
okay. Well, so we'll take it.
Agreed.
I think we've all got plenty
A
of
pass.
committees in our life
Okay.
right now.
I thought we had something mentioned, but we don't. And yeah, I think this is not a grassroots effort. It's
Principals have a hard time getting participation in a lot of the committees that we expected them as it is. I mean, teachers don't, they're overworked and don't want to,
Mhm.
and putting one more thing that they have to do that they're not gonna be able to complete, that's gonna make them feel bad, probably isn't the best thing to be doing right
the
now.
accreditation committee, the leadership team, the foundations team, the equity
The
team.
safety meeting, yeah, the safety committee, yeah,
All
oh my gosh.
involved would appreciate less committees.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
principals.
I mean, even elementary schools have so
So-
many committees.
So there is, I didn't fill this out, so I was going off of all the questions. There's also this WellSat scorecard. I think Amanda had printed these out last time, and I don't know whether,
Just transfer over what you.
Yeah.
we could just copy and share, and I could fill that out and send it out if, you know, that's, or we could go through it right now, but I feel like using your time,
Yeah,
sort of-
just taking this and
that's
putting
just
it on a
copying it,
scorecard.
yeah. And that could be part of the report to the governance
Mhm.
committee.
Yep.
I
Does
think
that
would be a
seem
great
fair?
report to the government.
Okay,
We-
Yeah.
So for each of us to do, or that we, just one of us does for the
I'm
team?
happy to do and
It was
pass it
collaborative
along.
effort in the first place.
So we'll save what we've circled.
Okay.
We can, I guess I'd love to hear what you guys are talking about with the ARs and
So we started with the document that you had put together. Thank you.
Right.
That was very helpful, the 22.10.5 BP 5040
Mhm.
ARs. And we went to each of those sections, and Marty and Cindy and Joe Zwadney and I got together to work on these last week. We added draft AR language in purple in those appropriate sections. So where we had sections where we thought that we needed AR language, we added some draft language. So that's what is represented there. We haven't shared this. We haven't shared it with the elementary team at all. I don't know that Marty shared it with secondary folks, but
so it's pretty early.
that's,
I did add some comments to them because I was reading over them the other day. Where are my comments?
Do we want to project
Give it a
that now
stop.
and just, because I think we can demonstrate that in some areas, we already have some pretty clear language
mhm,
built out, like around fundraisers, around waivers, around temperatures for when we have kids not go out to recess.
Trying to stop sharing.
Um,
But we
other
did ask some clarifying questions
we did.
in
Or
Yeah.
share something different.
No, because I don't have access to what they were.
Oh.
Right.
Oh.
Yep, you guys can send it to me and I'll upload it into the folder.
Okay, so
You should, you created the document.
Oh, can I imagine?
Yeah, I
Well,
don't.
you made a
you
copy
made a
of it.
copy.
We were
Did I?
working off a.
I think it
offline
was-
copy.
I think it was just a Word doc.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, I can move it into the folder.
Okay,
Oh,
I share that.
I think you're viewer, so I don't think you have editing privileges.
Okay.
okay.
Then can I share it with you
Yeah,
then, Melanie?
Shoot me
and
an
then you
email real
can-
quick and I'll put it
Yep.
up there.
You put it in the AR folder.
Do you want it in a board policy folder? Which is different than the AR, because we don't have the AR as up to the committee as a whole. That was an internal
Oh, okay, gotcha.
underneath an earlier working.
So what folder is?
2022-23 is the one that this committee currently has access to.
Yeah, let's put
So
it
that I
there.
would put it in there since the VP ARs would also be in there. So
Okay, so I share the document with you. You
Yeah.
should have an email notification, so then,
it's in my.
oh, yeah.
If you go into Google Docs and go to share it with me,
Mhm.
it should
It's still
it should
there.
be there. Get to it.
Google says,
Android.
oh, now, sure.
Android.
Outlook says, I don't know,
I got it.
could be a little sus.
Do you want me to make this a shortcut to yours, or should I just download it and make it its own thing?
You can actually take it and,
Okay, just move it.
yep, just move it.
I will do so. Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, it sounds like it's a work in progress on your end.
Right.
I mean, I'm curious about it, but that is
Well,
it's
so-
administration's domain.
I think that one of the questions that we had was,
Mhm.
like, some of the stuff we think is already like, over in policy, or do we need more details on some of the stuff? And so maybe what we can do is we'll probably need to sit down and go through that.
And I think we need to probably look at it against everything we've now pulled back over the policy.
Yes.
So a lot of what we pulled out of policy, it was with the intent to then put it in AR.
Mhm.
Through this process, we've. put
Done a
fair
little bit of
amount
moving.
So I think we just need to. figure
Well,
out
and
where-
I was reading over a couple days ago, and I felt like some of the things I think we tried to do the whole thing in one sitting, and I think I was getting a little loopy.
Yeah,
So,
and I think it needs to be broken
need
up
some
into
more
multiple ARs.
yeah, we need some more detail on some of the stuff, I think.
I think, and again, I keep coming back to this Minneapolis model, which has a great website, but like if you focus on, this is the nutrition section. These are the ARs for the nutrition section, right? It seems like that's more digestible. So if somebody, is curious about PE,
Mhm.
they're gonna say, what's the board policy about PE?
Sure.
And what are the ARs about PE?
So I think
Does
what
that,
the way we were tackling it was we're just trying to address the
Sure.
things that we decided first,
Yeah.
and then we'll probably format it.
okay,
But
So it's in there
What-
now.
well, I guess, timing, I think originally I was hoping to get sort of be in a stakeholder feedback stage right now, but we did a more thorough
Mhm,
job.
mhm.
So the question is, do we want to, there's an October governance committee, which we could just forward this along, but I think that it's important to get that stakeholder feedback.
Mhm.
And
Before.
that governance meetings agenda
Is
is
packed already?
jam
Okay,
packed,
great.
so it would not be.
So
a
I
good
think
time.
that, maybe we can say, all right, by the November governance meeting, which is
Yeah, that'd be more-
probably
and that we could,
around Thanksgiving or just before.
yes, I believe it
I think it was at
is
Thanksgiving.
the week before.
Before
Let me
Thanksgiving.
double-check.
So if we can push out stakeholder feedback,
Mhm.
get that input, you guys can continue to work on the ARs in the background. Having ARs ready for that November governance committee meeting, so we could say, here is the draft document that reflects the committee's work, the
Mhm.
WellSat, stakeholder input. Here's the AR document.
Mhm.
I
that
think
you
we
guys
can
have
have it
fleshed out.
ready by
Then it
then.
becomes a pretty complete package where everybody can kind of wrap their heads around. Can I'm gonna share my screen again. I wanted to just show and get your sense of feedback on, this was a draft survey. I just used a Google form. So it would kind of address the purpose of the survey, maybe provide links so people could see the bigger ones, but really just say, these are the changes that we did in each section. So if you want to get nerdy, here's the current policy. It'd be great to have a full, I'll ask MJ or something for, a landing spot for the draft policy so that people can look at it. Understand who people are. And sometimes, right, a teacher can be a parent as well,
Mhm.
or an administrator can be a parent as well. So we've got different stakeholders, and who am I forgetting, I guess is one question. Students, the PE health teachers are a specific contingent.
Like the
Um,
classroom teacher?
Well, elementary
Okay, there you
principal,
go.
secondary principal, elementary teacher, secondary teacher, sort of the world of support staff. And if that's not the appropriate way to,
Well, I was wondering if you, because when you say parapro,
yeah,
we do have different kinds of parapros, so do you,
You want-
do you have an office staff you have the instructional parapros and you have non-instructional parapros.
Right.
So the question is, do you want to separate them out? Because we do, when we evaluate them, but if it doesn't really matter. Does it matter what, can we not just say school-based employee
School support staff.
or school support staff?
so you want-
Just a little more general.
Yeah,
Limit that.
so
I don't know, I always like to lump my
Personal
staff
responsibility.
together as much as I can rather than separate them out.
Okay.
I feel like it honors them a little more.
Yeah, principals,
that-
I think probably district administrator rather than ASD
Okay.
administrator.
And maybe,
Interested community member. I don't know if I'm just
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
found this.
Sure.
And it's a health professional.
Yeah.
That seems like a useful
Mhm.
hat to wear.
Mhm.
Are you including elementary nurses,
Nurses, yeah.
counselors, everybody? in
So.
that? So it needs to be broader than just teachers.
Okay, so how would that stakeholder group or
you could
groups
say,
be,
you could say it's something.
like
um,
elementary?
Well, I was gonna say elementary instructional staff, but that doesn't really include the nurse.
Okay,
I
so
just
how,
keep it broad, say educator,
so elementary educator, so rather than teacher?
counselors,
Okay.
nurses, they're all considered educators in this kind of context.
Could you just say simple as elementary staff, secondary staff?
Yeah.
Instead of calling
Okay,
out
and then-
specifically health and PE, specifically supports, because
So,
just keep it
so,
tiny, so your
Okay,
box. is-
so don't
I'm not sure what
say-
the purpose of calling out each individual stakeholder is.
If we're not asking, if we're not actually interested in their feedback
Well-
by that specific group, then we
We-
don't, then we can be more general with
Mhm.
how they're
We could-
Well,
self-reporting.
maybe it's,
I think the
maybe it's
PE
a way,
teachers were,
they were, but also
Yeah.
maybe it's a way of saying, look, we haven't involved the stakeholders that we said that we're gonna involve in policy, have.
make that list.
I mean, yeah, so that way we can say, well, we did have people fill out the survey.
Mhm.
Right,
I don't
so we
I
had
mean,
that,
if
that,
somebody in a certain
Yeah.
group didn't fill it out, we would have to reach out.
Well, no, because
Make
we're
sure we
attempting,
right,
but
parents,
we're
students,
also,
school food authority, it's sort of school food, to like the nutrition staff, right?
Mhm.
So that would be, I mean, is that elementary staff?
okay, I guess, yeah.
If you're gonna break apart, did you just say, did you take it out? Is that what I see? You took out
Well, I took out like teacher,
ESPs. You took out ESPs, education support staff.
I
Support
did.
personnel. Then I would make it elementary, like, elementary staff. That's probably
Yeah.
broad
Yes.
enough.
Okay,
Everyone in my.
do we want to
building
have
has
a
that.
student nutrition component? Or, I mean, if you're a school cafeteria manager, how would you?
No, I mean, I don't think so. They're not listed specifically on our stakeholder
Okay.
list, right? I just think, I just want to know that they're staff,
Mhm.
But a coach.
coaches staff,
Or community member.
or a community member.
I mean, if we are interested. in
Or
PE
they
and
can
health
even go
teachers,
under
are we
PE or
interested in
health teacher.
Coaches as a
PE, health teacher,
perspective group, probably.
I don't think so, because
Yeah.
it's a different
It's a different-
lens, because this is education based for majority of the policy.
including coaches.
And doesn't, and says outside.
Well, no,
Doesn't
because a
really
lot of
apply.
coaches are actually,
Also staff.
Staff.
Most of
I
them.
think coaches, they'll find where they
I
fit.
think so,
Okay.
too.
I mean, if we leave an other box, if somebody wants to
Definitely
say
another
this is what I
box.
am.
And then,
Okay.
and
Oh.
yeah,
Okay, so we've got
may
this,
need to reorder what those are.
okay,
Simply, like, you want a student view, you want a parent view. I think those are, those kind of things. And that just is a fine tuning, like,
mhm,
with other, like, maybe that's something that Marty and Cindy can take a look at, what order they should go in.
yeah, and I'm
best.
happy to share this out. This is very rough. And I think there have been some changes to section
MJ
A.
might be the best. to
Yeah,
organize
and
that.
this is just a sample. I mean, if somebody has a better suggestion, but the idea would be for each section. So for example, in nutrition, these were the things that we changed, right? There's a summary of these changes. And these were the key items. Tell us about your support for them. What benefits do you see as arising from them? What barriers? Do you have any specific feedback? And the idea would be like, kind of duplicate that for each section.
So you'll go through and update it now. based
Yeah,
on the
and
other changes.
I'm happy to sit down and sort of just offer, serve a first, open that floor for discussion, not being a communication specialist.
But I wonder first if, and I don't know if MJ's team has somebody who go through and kind of look for some consistency in our language. We talked to, like, we've got some
Mhm.
shalls and some wills, and do
Mm.
we want to be consistent
Mhm.
in just like what we capitalize, and like all of that feels like it still needs kind of a final edit scrub.
Mhm. Yeah, so how about Carl and I do that, at least to make it what we think is pretty enough to send to MJ.
Okay.
And for his team's thoughts, and then I'm gonna volunteer Carl as well as the other board co-chair to help work through this survey idea.
Mhm.
And then take it to MJ as well. And we'll just keep you all posted. Does that work?
Yep.
Okay.
You need assistance on the technical side of creating
And-
a form, you know.
and
how to find
Lean
it.
on you as well.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
I really
thank you.
appreciate your time.
Yeah. So
Thank you so
November
much.
governance.
Let's
is-
plan for the November
Okay.
governance
Should
meeting.
we meet once before to go over the ARs?
I think that we should
Yeah.
plan to have.
So what we need to do is schedule that meeting so we have a deadline.
Yeah.
I like
Okay.
a deadline.